Welcome to the ultimate cartoon movie hub.
This ends now!
From timeless classics to the latest hits,
Alright, boys, try and keep up.
we bring the best of animation to your screen. Let's dive into the movie, which begins with Shadow locked in his containment chamber. It was supposed to be a complete containment, but a malfunction occurred in the system. Shadow started waking up and recalling memories of sitting with his daughter. Suddenly, he began to awaken fully. Of course, the alarms went off to alert security to contain the situation. Many soldiers stood in front of the chamber Shadow was held in, hoping to stop him if he broke out. And indeed, Shadow woke up and destroyed the chamber. The security team didn't have much time to react, because Shadow was disappearing and reappearing suddenly. None of them could see him as he appeared behind them, taking them out one by one due to his incredible speed and unmatched attack power. After taking everyone down, he destroyed the building effortlessly. Upon escaping, Shadow discovered he was in a prison supposedly under maximum security, located in the middle of the ocean. But of course, that didn't matter to him. Due to his immense speed, he managed to run across the water and escape. And this, of course, is the beloved hero of millions. Sonic alongside him are his friends Knuckles and Tails, who were preparing for a race. Their leader Tom and his wife Maddie were also there. It seemed their life together was beautiful and stable. The race began quickly, with everyone trying to prove they were the fastest. When Sonic saw that everyone was ahead of him, he decided to use all his unnatural speed and managed to reach the finish line in no time. He was about to celebrate but found that the others had already beaten him. Shocked, he asked how, but he accepted his loss and went to congratulate them. When he touched them, he realized they were holograms. Surprised, he quickly went back to see what was happening and discovered it was all a distraction for a surprise birthday party. They wanted to surprise him, and he was overjoyed with his birthday celebration. Meanwhile, Shadow arrived in a city and was confused by the sudden bustling crowd. He looked at a screen and saw the year 2024, realizing he had been imprisoned for 50 years. Before he could think further, he found himself surrounded by numerous security forces. Angrily, he said to them, "What do you think about leaving me alone?" At the same time, a military plane arrived at Sonic's location. A woman emerged, informing them that General Walters had requested immediate assistance from Sonic's team due to chaos in the city of Tokyo. Sonic was thrilled that the military sought his help for a rescue mission. They quickly moved to the location where Shadow was, and the three of them jumped from the plane to enter the battlefield. As soon as they arrived, a tank was thrown at them, but Knuckles saved the day by catching it like a toy. When Shadow saw them, he approached, and Sonic asked him, "Why do we look alike?" Shadow wasn't particularly interested in the answer. He didn't care why they resembled each other, as he had already decided to oppose Sonic the moment he saw him descending from the military plane. Ignoring them, he was about to leave, but Knuckles followed him. Before Shadow could even raise his voice or lift his hand, Sonic, being a million times faster, played with him as if he were nothing. Shadow retaliated with a powerful attack, but Sonic regrouped his team and decided to launch a collective attack. However, before they could even decide how to proceed, Shadow disappeared from in front of them and reappeared behind them before they could even notice. He toyed with them, completely overpowering them. After leaving them defeated, he continued his escape. Sonic, determined to continue the fight, chased after him. The chase between them was intense, with Shadow outpacing the speed of his motorcycle and Sonic pushing himself to the limit to catch up. When Sonic finally grabbed onto the motorcycle, he was shocked to see a train heading straight for them, but Shadow, with his incredible speed, vanished and appeared on the other side of the train. Sonic, overwhelmed by the speed, felt dizzy. When he recovered, he was shocked to find himself handcuffed by Shadow without even realizing it. This demonstrated Shadow's unimaginable speed, which Sonic couldn't comprehend yet. When Tails and Knuckles arrived, Sonic told them, "I handcuffed myself for technical reasons I can't explain right now." To learn more about Shadow, they went to meet General Walters. The general began narrating Shadow's story. He told Sonic, "When you arrived on this planet, you found someone to care for you and felt safe here. But unfortunately, when Shadow arrived, he found nothing but betrayal, hatred, and destruction." The general continued, explaining that Shadow arrived on Earth 50 years ago on a meteor. When humans discovered him, he was still a child. Due to his power, they began experimenting on him in labs to understand the limits of his strength and exploit it for industries or even electricity. They used him for their benefit until one day, during a demonstration of his powers, he caused an explosion that destroyed the lab, killing many people. As a result, the government intervened, arrested the project leader, and imprisoned Shadow. They tortured him out of fear of his powers, which they couldn't comprehend or control. Eventually, they decided to place him in a preservation capsule to keep him asleep forever. The general, who had carried out the mission to contain Shadow, admitted that Shadow didn't escape on his own. Someone had helped him awaken and flee, but they didn't know who. Only a few people were even aware of Shadow's existence. Suddenly, while they were talking, Sonic noticed numerous robots surrounding them in attack positions. He quickly warned everyone and saved the general from a missile. When they got up, they found themselves surrounded from all directions. Out of nowhere, someone on a motorcycle appeared and, without warning, attacked the robots, electrocuting them to immobilize them. Without introducing himself, the mysterious individual left the scene and disappeared instantly. Sonic noticed the general was injured and tried to help him. The general pulled out a card and gave it to Sonic, saying, "This is the key to the army's most powerful weapon. You're the only one who can protect it." Then, he lost consciousness. Hearing the approaching army forces, Sonic and his team disappeared. When the military arrived, they searched the general for the weapon's key but couldn't find it. Instead, they found a picture of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. The commander suspected they were responsible for the general's condition and declared, "I knew they were the cause of all this destruction." Tails asked Sonic, "Why are we running? Isn't the army our ally?" Sonic replied, "From now on, we won't trust anyone until we gather all the information we need." As a starting point, they chased after the motorcyclist and managed to catch up with him. They discovered he was the same person who had worked as Dr. Eggman's assistant in the previous part. The important thing is that he told them, "Don't worry, I'm not here to fight," and he called them to come out of the sea and said, "Come with me to prove to you that the doctor wasn't guilty." Of course, this is Dr. Eggman after losing his job and spent his time eating day and night until his belly looked like a drum. Naturally, Sonic was shocked when he saw him drumming on his belly in that ugly way. And so were his friends. Eggman was, of course, shocked to see Sonic there because he is a sworn enemy. But his assistant told him that's not the problem now and showed him a videotape depicting many young robots of Dr. Eggman attacking Sonic. He said that someone is trying to involve them in a battle that isn't theirs. Quickly, Dr. Eggman decided to return to work, but this time he and Sonic would be allies. And the first thing Shadow did after escaping was to go to the lab that exploded because of him. And he looked sad as he gazed at the destroyed lab, until he saw a shoe that made him remember a girl who was his friend. She was the first human he saw when he awoke from the meteor that brought him to Earth. She seemed very kind and cheerful, which quickly attracted him to her, allowing them to form a beautiful friendship. He didn't care about anything as long as she was beside him because she was the only one who accepted him and made him feel safe on this planet. One day, she took him out of the lab to watch the stars together and asked him if he knew where he was from. He told her he didn't remember anything about his homeland and asked if she thought he was a danger to humans. She said, "No, of course not." He told her, "You're the only one who thinks that. You're the only one because all the scientists in the lab look at me with fear, as if I'm a bomb about to explode." She told him, "You're my friend, I'm not afraid of you, and I'm sure there's goodness in your heart." He was pulled out of his memories by the voice of someone behind him. When he turned to see who it was, he found the professor responsible for the lab that exploded. The professor told him he had been expecting him. The group decided to split up to search the place faster. Eggman told Sonic, "Come with me so we can learn to trust each other a bit." Sonic replied, "You're right." They walked together, and each pair went in a different direction. Eggman and his assistant felt someone behind them. When they turned, they were shocked to see Shadow flying behind them, which scared them and made them scream. Eggman and Sonic saw pictures of Shadow with his friend, the girl. Sonic liked the idea that Shadow had a family that loved him. Suddenly, without any warning, Shadow attacked him and said, "I warned you many times to stay out of my way." Then he disappeared. Eggman couldn't catch up, so he continued his search until he found his robots, which the professor had stolen. He was very happy, but had no time to celebrate because the professor entered. He activated his robots to attack the professor, but the professor said, "I'm not here for a battle. I borrowed your robots to lure you here for the sake of our family. I am your grandfather, Gerald Robotnik." Eggman didn't believe him at first, but after seeing the great resemblance between them and some secret information Gerald knew about Eggman, Eggman had to believe that Gerald was indeed his grandfather and that they were truly family. He was thrilled to finally meet someone from his family and asked, "Where have you been all my life?" Gerald replied, "I was imprisoned in a secret prison for over 50 years. And now I intend to take revenge and reclaim my rights." He took Eggman with him to plan for revenge. They first went to Sonic, who was chained with his team. Gerald asked Sonic for the weapons key. Sonic tried to be clever and said, "Do you think I'm stupid enough to bring it here?" Shadow reached into Sonic's pocket and easily took out the key. The weapon was originally designed by Gerald while he was in prison, and he gained his freedom by handing over the weapons project to the military. The weapon is like a satellite that orbits the Earth and can deliver a precise strike anywhere on the planet with destructive power. Now the weapon and the key were in Gerald's possession, and he intended to use it for his revenge. However, he still needed another key because the weapon operates with 2 keys, and the second key was at the military headquarters. Eggman told him, "Don't worry, I'll help you get the second key." Before they left, Sonic tried to convince Shadow not to help them, but Shadow didn't care and activated a weapon similar to a black hole, which began to pull everything inside it. They were almost pulled in too, but they managed to save themselves at the last moment. When they finally got out of the place, they saw it completely disappear in a terrifying scene inside the hole. Eggman, his grandfather, and Gerald watched the place vanish. They thought they had gotten rid of Sonic and his friends, and Eggman was delighted, looking proudly at his grandfather, saying, "In a moment, you did what I've been trying to do for years." They both started moving towards the headquarters where the second key was located. Sonic opened a portal to Tom and Maddie and returned to them to ask for their help to enter the headquarters where the second key was. The headquarters was protected by a shield that would burn anyone who approached it, so someone had to enter legally and disable the shield. Tom and Maddie were supposed to do that. Since the mission was terrifyingly complex, Maddie suggested that Sonic use the emerald that turns him golden to become stronger and do whatever he wanted. But Sonic refused the idea because the emerald's power was terrifying, and it was dangerous to try to use it. Knuckles told them, "I'm the only one who knows where the emerald is, and it's impossible for anyone to get close to her, so they will have to rely on their own efforts without any extraordinary powers." They all head to London together and split up to properly execute their plan. Tom and Maddie take care of external security. Tails handles all the traps, and Sonic quickly steals the second key. The plan was for him to destroy the headquarters roof in any way to allow Sonic to escape. They accused Maddie of using devices to change their appearance to make it seem like they were part of the security team, enabling them to enter the place easily. Their plan succeeded, and they entered the location effortlessly. Maddie disguised herself to assist General Walters to access a room with her fingerprint. But unfortunately, the person they were impersonating entered, so they acted quickly and managed to evade her. They entered the control room and inserted a flash drive, allowing Tails to hack the place. Before leaving, they found another flash drive and realized it belonged to Dr. Eggman, who was also sneaking inside with his grandfather while their assistant was outside with Shadow. They said, "When we get the second card, we will rule the world." Shadow responded, "When we get the second card, there won't be a world left to rule." Eggman replied, "That's a very dark thought," and asked what he intended with Gerald. Shadow couldn't respond because Tails was approaching their hiding spot, which was in the sewage system. Water rushed in with great force, sweeping them far away from the field. Eggman and his grandfather reached the laser. Gerald asked, "What will we do now?" Without any introduction, Eggman threw his grandfather into the laser. Gerald panicked and started dancing, thinking he had died. Moments later, he realized the laser hadn't affected him. Eggman told him, "I designed this suit to resist lasers, but I had to test it on you first." Gerald looked at him with pride and said, "You're the perfect villain to inherit my legacy. A heartless, corrupt son I can boast about among my evil peers. Your corruption is something to be proud of." Both started dancing and showing off in the middle of the laser, creating a ridiculous duet with their bellies. Tails saw them on the cameras and informed Sonic they were approaching. Sonic didn't wait for Tails to disable the traps and decided to act quickly. He managed to bypass the first obstacle at the last moment with Tails' help and reached Eggman before he could take the key. Eggman quickly tried to grab the key, but the ground's gravity intensified, pulling him and his grandfather down, immobilizing them. Sonic rushed to take the key, but the gravity beneath him was nullified, causing him to float and rendering him unable to move or use his speed. General Walters' assistant entered, thanking them for falling into her trap. Soldiers surrounded them, capturing Tails, Tom, and Maddie. She told them they would all serve her forever. Sonic communicated with Knuckles via radio, saying it was his time to act. Knuckles moved with all his strength, attacking the building from above, destroying the glass shield, and assaulting Walter's assistant. He took the device controlling the gravity of the place and tried to free Sonic by destroying the device. This activated the entire floor, causing some to fly and others to be pulled to the ground. The assistant was about to reach the key but was pulled to the ground along with the key, which ended up between her and Eggman. They both crawled toward it, trying to reach it first. Due to the intense gravity, the ceiling's metal began to bend downward like spears. If anyone fell on it, they would be pierced. Sonic saw a large rock about to fall on them due to gravity. Despite being unable to move, he used all his strength to save them at the last moment. In doing so, he destroyed the gravity control device, restoring everything to normal. The assistant quickly grabbed the key before Eggman and tried to escape, but Tom, disguised as General Walters, intercepted her and ordered her to hand over the key. She complied and handed it over. As she left, he informed his team that he had the key. Before he could leave, Shadow appeared before him. Shadow's greatest hatred was for General Walters, who had imprisoned him in the capsule. He attacked Tom with all his rage and strength. At that moment, Tom either lost consciousness. Shadow took the key from him. As he was about to leave, he noticed Tom's disguise had disappeared. Shocked, he realized he had attacked someone other than Walters. At the same time, Sonic arrived and saw his friend Tom lying unconscious, with Shadow standing next to him. Sonic rushed to Tom, trying to revive him in vain. Shadow stood silently, looking at them with sadness in his eyes, recalling a moment when he stood next to his only friend, a girl, trying to revive her after she died in an explosion. Shadow said, "What have you done?" Sonic replied, "What I had to do," and disappeared from the scene. Maddie, Tails, and Knuckles arrived to check on Tom, whose condition remained uncertain. The authorities arrested Eggman and his grandfather, who had already surrendered, but Shadow intervened at the last moment, eliminating all the surrounding forces and handing them the second key. He then took them to the weapons control device. Gerald told Eggman he had designed suits befitting them. After they put them on, Eggman's assistant emerged from the water and contacted Eggman, warning him that his grandfather was lying and had far more sinister plans than he could imagine. Eggman dismissed him, calling him a traitor, and returned to his grandfather to continue their evil deeds. They activated the weapon, which surfaced from the sea for the first time, ready to wreak havoc. An ambulance arrived and took Tom, with Maddie accompanying him. Sonic felt the worst emotion in the universe, deciding he must stop them and avenge his friend at any cost. He asked Knuckles for the emerald, but Knuckles refused, saying, "You can't use it for revenge. Doing so will consume the goodness in your heart." Sonic prepared to fight Knuckles, declaring it was the only solution, and if Knuckles didn't give it willingly, he would take it by force. Knuckles almost killed him but relented, saying, "We must trust each other. I must honor my promise even if you break yours." He warned Sonic that the emerald was guarded by a terrifying warrior, and that to use it, Sonic must first face and defeat him. This warrior was incredibly formidable, wielding the emerald as if it were a hockey. Sonic went to confront him, and he said to him, "Take it for yourself." He replied, "I can't. I stayed protecting it with my life." As he was speaking, he took it from him and began using its power to transform into Super Sonic. He utilized all his speed to reach the weapon that had already launched into space. He started preparing it to activate and be ready for attack. He watched as he reached the final moment and asked Gerald if this was really what Maria, his companion, had wished for. Gerald replied, "I'm not doing this to fulfill Maria's wish. I'm doing this because these people deserve destruction." He left, walking away. Thinking back to when Gerald entered while he was playing with Maria, Gerald told them, "Move quickly to escape from here because they want to take you away." They tried to escape, but security chased them, and they were about to fire at them. However, General Walters intervened, trying to stop them because there was a child with them. A shot accidentally hit explosive containers, causing a massive explosion in the area. Maria was affected by the explosion and died, though it wasn't caused by the one they thought. Of course, when Shadow remembered those painful memories, he became even angrier and returned with all his rage to seek revenge on humans. He began circling the weapon at full speed to activate it at maximum power. Eggman told his grandfather, "You're going to destroy the planet." Gerald replied, "That's the goal. I want revenge on everyone. Not just the planet will be destroyed. Even we will die with it." Eggman was shocked and said, "It's impossible to destroy the planet. I wanted to rule it, not destroy it." Shadow approached them and said, "The weapon is now ready. The launch codes are set, and the firing will happen in 10 minutes. Shadow was doing all this under the illusion that he was achieving justice for his only companion. While they stood there, they saw something small and extremely fast heading their way. In the blink of an eye, Sonic appeared among them, taking Shadow into space to settle the matter alone. Sonic said, "I'm going to destroy you just as you hurt my family." Shadow replied, "You're trying to take revenge just as I'm trying to avenge the death of my family." They both descended to Earth at full speed, causing a massive, terrifying explosion. Shadow appeared behind Sonic, striking him with all his strength, which nearly separated the emerald from Sonic. Sonic quickly tried to retrieve it, but Shadow moved as well, and both of them touched the emerald simultaneously. Both transformed into Super Sonic and Super Shadow. It was clear that Super Shadow was far stronger than Super Sonic, attacking him mercilessly. Sonic gathered his strength, trying to resist. The two of them moved at terrifying speeds, and their battle was destructive and without mercy. Their speed was so intense that they became visible to Gerald and Eggman in space. Eggman took advantage of his grandfather's distraction and struck him on the neck to knock him unconscious. He quickly tried to stop the weapon's launch, but Gerald hadn't lost consciousness yet. He flew after him, and a fierce battle ensued. Meanwhile, the battle between Shadow and Sonic was nearing its end. Shadow was about to finish Sonic, but Sonic remembered Tom, who was on the brink of death. Furious, Sonic attacked Shadow with all his strength, striking him so hard that he sent him flying from one planet to another. When Shadow regained consciousness, he found the emerald had left his body, returning him to his normal power. Super Sonic attacked him, grabbing hold of him. He could have finished him off with a single strike, but chose not to. Holding him, Sonic said, "I'm not like that." Shadow replied, "You've defeated me. Take your revenge and claim your right." Sonic responded with a wise reply, "No one wins by taking revenge." Shadow looked up at the sky, seeing the stars, and remembered Maria. He said to Sonic, "The last time I sat under the stars like this, I was with her. All I've known since then is pain." Sonic replied, "When I lost Longclaw, I felt pain too, but over time, I realized that love is stronger than pain. I never let the pain of losing Longclaw consume me. The love I felt with my family was stronger than the pain and revenge. Suddenly, the sun shone upon them as they sat in a romantic atmosphere on the moon. Looking at Earth, they united and became friends. Shadow admitted that everything that had happened was a mistake. Sonic said, "You and I will fix it together." They combined their powers to transform into their super versions and flew with all their strength to destroy the weapon before it could destroy Earth. Unfortunately, Gerald had already destroyed the systems that could stop the launch. Gerald barely took a breath before seeing Sonic and Shadow entering together. A massive group of robots attacked them, trying to stop them. But for Sonic and Shadow, this was merely a warm-up. Gerald opened a hatch to throw his grandson into space, enjoying it immensely. He turned his back so he wouldn't see him fall. However, Eggman intervened just in time, saving his grandson and throwing Gerald into the weapon's core, where he presumably died. Sonic gathered the robots and lured them into traps, destroying them effortlessly. Sonic and Shadow finally confronted the weapon's projectile just in time, using their bodies to stop it from hitting Earth. Unable to endure for long, they called for help from Eggman and Tails to stop the weapon. Realizing they couldn't stop it, they moved the weapon away from Earth, saving it, but splitting the moon in half. Sonic, having exhausted his power, began falling to Earth at full speed. Tails saw him and asked Knuckles for a ring to open a portal. Knuckles said it was his last ring and decided to use it wisely. Knuckles threw Tails toward Earth with all his strength to reach Sonic faster. The weapon began to break apart, threatening Earth. Shadow asked Eggman to help him stabilize the weapon for as long as possible while he tried to move it away. Tails descended with such speed that his body temperature rose significantly. He finally reached Sonic, catching him. Super Shadow freed himself and used all his power to push the weapon away from Earth. Eggman delivered a heartfelt farewell to his assistant, apologizing for his refusal to listen. The assistant watched the broadcast, deeply moved. Shadow continued pushing the weapon as it disintegrated. Tails, after catching Sonic, lost consciousness and couldn't open the portal. Knuckles revived them both, opening the portal just in time. The weapon exploded, leaving a galaxy-like image in the sky. Eggman and the others watched the explosion, believing Sonic and Shadow had perished in it. Tails, Sonic, and Knuckles landed in a farmland from the portal and weren't affected by the fall. When they woke up, they saw the sky filled with the aftermath of the explosion that happened there. Sonic, having lost the anger in his heart, apologized to Knuckles and Tails for the way he spoke to them and asked for their forgiveness. Eggman's assistant kept looking at the explosion, bid farewell to Eggman, and left. The group reunited and were very happy together, even more so with Tom's return to them. They decided to race again to see who was the fastest. I hope you enjoyed watching, and please support us by subscribing to the channel, giving a nice like, and activating the bell button. Thank you for your time.